listening to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Cali Estes and Master Coach Jenny Fontana, founders of the Life Coach Method. Each one of our uplifting and deep dive episodes is geared to help you tackle the things that hold you back from having the most magnificent life you deserve. Sit back, relax, and prepare to be coached.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Unpause Your Life. I am Dr. Cali Estes, and you may know my guest today. This is Richard Taite, and he is the founder and executive chairman of Carrara Treatment, Wellness and Spa. This isn't your ordinary treatment center. It's an ultra luxury addiction treatment facility, and he's the executive chairman of One Method Centers, an affordable substance use disorder treatment facility, as well as the founder of Cliffside Malibu, which he sold in 2018. His legacy is built on the belief that there is nothing to get, there is only to give. Being a visionary leader and expert in the world of addiction treatment with decades under his belt, he is fighting back against the exploding fentanyl crisis, leaving this world better than he found it. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you for having me, Doctor. I appreciate it.
So I am so glad you're here. Everybody knows you as Cliffside Malibu, or when you had Cliffside Malibu. I want to hear how you got here. How did you get from where you started to where you are now? Give us the story of Richard.
Well, when I was a kid, I had two brothers, and we all got beaten all the time, for nothing from a rageaholic father. So we know how that plays out, right? And then at about 12, I went into my father's drawer and stole some of his marijuana. And my mind quieted down. See, when you're a child, you're small and you think to yourself, well, if my parents don't love me and they're harming me, then I must be bad. Our frontal cortex isn't fully developed. So the only thing you're thinking of at that point is, I'm a bad boy. And then every time you're beaten, or I'll give you something to cry about, or you're stupid, or all of this other stuff, it reinforces this, right? So pretty soon you're a 45-year-old man being run by a 5-year-old, right?
Oh, yeah.
So because of this, from the age of 12 until, I don't know, but 25 years, 37, I lost 2.5 decades to drug addiction. Now, I do have a pet peeve, okay? I did not lose 2.5 decades to substance use disorder.
Tell me your pet peeve. Tell me what it is.
Well, because only a sissy, okay, would lose 2.5 decades to substance use disorder, okay? A woman that drinks a bottle of wine and takes a couple Xanax, that woman's got substance use disorder. I lost 2.5 decades to severe drug addiction. I was smoking an ounce of cocaine every single day. And for those of the listeners that don't know what that is, that's about 8 times more than normal.
That's a lot.
A lot. I was up 6 to 8 days at a time without sleep. And I'd eat a Big Mac once a week to keep myself alive. But to go back, I'll tell you this story. I was in 2nd grade, and I've never been able to concentrate in school. I would just daydream, and I didn't know what that was, and nobody knew what that was back then. I'm 58. Okay, today we know what that is. Okay, it's ADD or ADHD, sometimes dyslexia. I had all 3. Okay, I was in a bad way. And so we sit down, and I'm in the front row, and I don't hear what the assignment is because I'm daydreaming. And I'm looking at the girl next to me, and I don't know how to read, but I know T, and next to that is an H, and next to that is an E, right, is one word, because I see it. It's one word, right? And then there's a space, and I copy her entire paper, word for word. The teacher gives me an envelope to take home. My father reads it. He comes in before I go to bed, and he says, "Why did you cheat?" And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And he smacked his second grader in the face so hard that I couldn't hear. That's how hard he hit me. And he did this for 15 minutes straight, and I wouldn't fold. And finally, he opens the letter and he reads it and he says, "Let me tell you what you wrote. Hi, my name is Julie Brown, and I spent my summer in the Brownies." Okay? I couldn't read when I got out of high school. I couldn't. I taught myself to read. So I was in a bad way. I went to university for 7 years just to graduate. Started at a community college and graduated to UCLA. I have no idea how I got in. And the entire time, and then I failed out of law school. Then I practiced law for 13 years without a law license.
How'd you
Okay.
manage that?
Uh, Cocaine is a huge motivator,
That's true.
right? And so, and then there was something called SB 899, Senate Bill 899, that put workers' compensation people out of business, or at least the way I was doing it. And so I retired, and I was very young, 20 years ago, 22 years ago, and I retired and I moved to Malibu. And, but this house was so big, and I was a single guy, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, and I'm scared. So what I did was I moved out and I started a men's sober living. But then I realized I was operating illegally because I was providing more than I was promising. Right? Sober living is supposed to be just for two people living in community in an effort to stay sober. That wasn't our thing, right? We were giving therapy and we were giving all this stuff, and I was told it was treatment. So we went and we got our treatment license, and in 2005, and that's how Cliffside was born.
I
And
love this story. I'm going to stop you for 1 second. I love this story because it's like you came at the addiction space not with the idea of to make a shit ton of money, which is what a lot of people come in with. They're going to open this sober living and gonna make all this money, and next thing you know, they have a Ferrari. You came in with, I'm going to help people,
right,
and I'm going to put up a sober living, and I'm just going to help people. And somebody went, hey, you're practicing treatment without a license, and you're going, well, I'm just helping people. We're not charging for it. We're just doing the work. So I guess we have to get a license. How do we do that? So you came at this space with the intent to help. And I love that because that's not what's happening now. We don't have people coming in to help. We have people coming in for the money grab.
it's
So
even it's even different. It's even deeper than that. It's even deeper than that because there's this Swami that comes to town once a year, and he shows up in his orange thing and his bald head, and there's 5,000 guys in orange garbs and bald heads, and they meet him, and he speaks in front of huge crowds here, but he knows that I don't do crowds. So once a year for an hour, we meet alone, just the two of us. And for 3 straight years, I was crying to him. I don't get it. I'm helping people. I'm charging them money. You know, that was foreign to me, and I had to get my head around it. And he said to me, he said, wouldn't the world be a better place if everyone could help people for a living? And I'd cry, well, but, and he said this to me for 3 years. It took 3 years to get my head around what I thought I should have been doing for fun and for free. I'm now making a living on. And the second I got my head around that, we were a rocket to stardom. And Cliffside was bought without going to market. I mean, it was, they just kept throwing money at me and I couldn't say no at a certain point, you know. But then you go through 5 years where you're living basically like a Malibu housewife and you want to light yourself on fire because, you know, if you can help people and you one of the best in the world at giving people back their loved ones and you're not doing it, you're a dick. Okay. And I try to help everybody I can because I can. And it's how I get my self-esteem.
Well, you said two key things. First, the way we stay sober and the way we work on ourselves is we help other people. Because everybody you meet that has a problem or has an issue, you're either going to see part of yourself in or you're going to learn something about yourself, which allows you to grow. That's the first thing. The second thing is if we don't charge, we can't help more people. If we worked for free, we wouldn't be able to help everybody. But working and charging allows us to help the people who may come along and say, I don't have as much money, or hey, I need a scholarship, or hey, can you help me? We're able to do that. And in this space, a lot of people don't see it that way. They either say, well, I can't charge because this is for free and I was given this for free. Well, no, if you don't charge, you can't help more people. That's why I created the Addictions Academy. I wanted to help more people. I'm like, I'm one person. I need to train more people to help more people. And when I did that, and we do scholarships all the time, I was able to get an army of people out there in the ground helping get people into treatment. And
Yeah.
that's the key. And we miss that, I think, in recovery a lot. We miss that in this space.
You know, Carrara is a place that's completely different. It's one of one. It's built that way, right? I mean, it was built for that reason. It was built for the reason that if somebody who had the ability to come to Carrara and they ended up somewhere else, they're pissed. Okay. That was the idea. It's where celebrities go for treatment. It's where ultra high net worth individuals go for treatment. It's where political families go for treatment. I mean, this is built for somebody like me. Okay. However, I do have, as you said in the intro, one method, and that is without question the finest in network affordable treatment facility in the world. I
Where's
mean,
that one located?
Cheviot Hills.
Ah, okay.
It's like right next door to, or a 9 iron from Cheviot Hills Country Club, right? I mean, so it's in a great neighborhood in beautiful houses, right? With the best staff. You want to hear the best story ever? The best story ever is I bought one method, and it was while I was ramping up and creating Carrera, and they couldn't make payroll at one method. The guy called me crying. He says, I can't make payroll. Well, they have, I said, when's payroll? He says, 36 hours. I said, all right, I'll be there in the morning. So I'm there in the morning, and your listeners will love this because the due diligence was so impeccable. I got there at 9:30 in the morning. I talked to every client, every employee. I negotiated the deal. I wrote up the short form, and I bought the place all by 12:30.
Ah, oh, wow.
Okay,
Fast track.
right? I mean, the level of due diligence that I did, never done before, right? So extensive. So I get home, and the 4 or 5 girls that I've got with me that were previous Cliffside employees that are close friends of mine, you know, I get home and I tell them, and they start packing their stuff. And I'm like, where are you guys going? They're like, oh, we're going to see what you did. Come back, right? They come back and they're like, their head in their hands. They're like, oh my God, you don't know what you just did. And I said, what did I do? They said, they don't have any staff. I said, you're out of your mind. Okay. I just met the staff. Richie, that's all they have. We're in a 24/7, 365-day a year business. We have 3 shifts. They've got 1 shift. You bought nothing. And I was like, don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. right? Uh, Show up in the morning and it'll all be fixed. Naturally, I went to bed and cried myself to sleep. But I wake up in the morning and I'm shaving and I never like to look at myself in the mirror because who wants to see their grandfather, right?
Mm.
But it hit me as I was shaving and I said, everybody comes home today. And it really is the honor of my life. I called 10 people, my 10 best people at Cliffside, 10 of the best people in the industry. And I said, same thing to everybody. I'm sorry for the late notice, but everyone comes home today. And they said, we're doing it again. And I said, we are. And they said, hold on, let me go give my notice and I'll call you back. And 10 people walked into HR and gave their notice in 1 hour. So I told the president of my company, look, we'll go to war with what we've got. We're a startup. We'll all roll up our sleeves. We're not afraid of the hard work. We all know what we're doing here and we'll just do it. And then we'll open up Carrara gently. We'll be gentle with ourselves and then we'll be rolling because we know how to do high-end treatment. I mean, we know the highest of end treatment, right? And 2 weeks later, the president of my company walks into my office and she says, they're calling. And I said, who's calling? And she said, the people from Cliffside. And I said, what do they want? And she said, they want to know what's wrong with them. They want to know why they can't come. And I said, how many? And she said, 14. And I said, bring them all. 6 more followed. And then, just because I wanted to hear the story, I hired the HR person. Yeah.
And you got the story.
I got the story. And, that's why we're not 10 and a half months old. We're 21 years old. I mean,
Yeah.
every clinician I've got's got either 10, 20, or 30,000 hours of treatment experience. I mean, people say we're new and I'm like, no, we're not.
Yeah.
This is essentially the company that people wanted so bad it didn't go to market and it's brand new. So I'm so lucky to have walked in to my second, act and not having to staff the place. And then we needed more help because we grew really fast. I mean, we've got 42 beds and 36 of them are filled in 10 and a half months. My old company has 24 people in it right now with 42 beds. So, I mean, we've just blown past people, and this is the toughest climate you'll ever see. So, yeah, that's sorry for the monologue.
No, that's good. So I don't know if you can say this. I don't know if you're in a non-disclosure or not. Um, when you sold Cliffside, I don't know who bought it.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember who bought it.
Okay. Well, it's
Did they get
public record. It was Webster Capital.
okay? Did they get upset with you for having the staff come to your new facility?
Oh yeah, they were really pissed. My old CEO called me and he told me, I don't want you poaching my employees. And I said, John, they're called job offers. I don't want you, I'm not kidding, I don't want you poaching my employees. And I said, John, slavery ended in 1865. They're my people. I said, well, clearly they're no one's people because, like I said about the slavery, but if they're anyone's people, to the extent that they're anyone's people, they're clearly mine, right? And he started screaming at me. And so I just told him that he was my 5%er and that I didn't care what he thought. And if he didn't like it and he didn't think I was able to do that and I was within my rights, it was time to lawyer up. And he said, no, 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 right, the whole thing. These guys don't have the intestinal fortitude, right? And I can't help myself, right? If there's a wrong, Okay, people are going to act. That's my character defect. That is my worst character defect. When somebody doesn't act right, I'm such a child, I have to make them act right. It's insane. It's insane. And I'm getting so much better at it, but it's definitely a character defect.
I don't know if I would call it a character defect because I did that in 2014. I had to sue 15 people in our industry because they were having a field day online lying about me, basically slander and defamation. And one of the biggest treatment center owners in LA cut me a nice big check for running his mouth because I said, "You want to keep going? We'll go to court." He's like, "You wouldn't do that." I'm like, "Sick took me 6 years." And he's like, "You're just pumping money into it." I said, "You know what? I'm going to make it right because what you did was wrong." And then he cut the check. So this industry is so interesting. It's like people always want to run their mouth over something. And it's like, why we need to work on helping people and getting the best service. Adding another treatment center to the platform to have more services is a good thing, not a
Very
bad thing. Instead of looking at it like these are my employees, they have free will, they can go anywhere they want and they're going to go where they feel valued and they feel heard. So if
yeah.
they're not getting that, they're going to come to you because they feel valued and heard and they have every right to do that.
Yeah. And, we're in the worst opioid epidemic we've ever had, right?
Yeah.
And so 70% of the pills and the powder you buy on the street right now have fentanyl in it.
Hmm.
And, that's the reason I came back, right? Because I wanted to treat the military. See, here's what drives me insane since I've been gone. Since I've been gone, we now live in a third world country, or so it looks that way. And I only refer to that because of the encampments. I mean, I grew up in LA. I'm 58 years old. I've never seen this before, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's I've never seen anything like it. And, and I love the military more than anything. One of my biggest regrets in life is not going into the military, right? Would have been the best thing in the world for me. And so I love our military, especially today in the world that we're going into. And I think it's important to treat our veterans the right way because it's a national security issue, right? If you're not treating your veterans the right way, nobody goes in to protect your country, right? And so I had this idea where I was going to pull veterans right off the street and put them into treatment. And so we're waiting for our contracts right now to be able to do that. And they don't have their, there's all sorts of benefits that aren't taken that these folks are entitled to. They don't know how to get it. So I've been meeting with people at the VA, and we figured it out. And, I've always, since the beginning, I've always had 3 wounded warriors at one method at all times, scholarshiped. We've had as many as 5 at one time. And it's just, as soon as we get these contracts, we're scaling. We've put a bunch of money aside to start de novo projects, to acquire a lot of different failing centers because they're all failing. When I left Cliffside in June of 2018, there were 18,000 plus treatment centers in the country. At the end of last year's numbers, 2023's numbers, 12,000 and change. I guarantee when we get the numbers for the end of 2024, there will be under 10,000. So how do we lose half the treatment beds in the country during the worst opioid epidemic that we've ever seen? And the answer is because insurance companies used to pay 67 cents on the dollar, and now they're paying about 25 cents on the dollar. Also, the length of stay is about 4 or 5 days shorter. So if you're working on a 30% margin, and you've got 60% of your revenue that was just taken, you're in trouble. Okay. So these places are folding everywhere. And, we're ready to step in, save these places, and fill them up with veterans. And that's that's a legacy. That is a legacy. That is something my children can be proud of. And that is leaving this place better than you found it. And that is the goal, right?
That's awesome. That's awesome because so many places I just saw that happen when insurance, they just had that big shift 2 weeks ago where you're supposed to be in state, not out of state. So I know 4 places in Huntington Beach just folded overnight.
Right.
Um, so it's crazy. So it's awesome that you are forward thinking. Plus, you're looking at one of our most vulnerable populations, which is veterans. I mean, nobody thinks about them. And, they're out there trying to get services and they can't. And then you've got all those encampments down around the Cecil Hotel that are just, I mean, Skid Row has just expanded down there. It's ridiculous.
Right.
So it's awesome that you're doing and you're proactively thinking how to get these things set up now, not waiting for the fallout and then scrambling last minute like a lot of other people.
Oh, no, no, no. I think of everything. I do everything in a long-term play, right? So, um, yeah, uh, I always look 3 to 4 years down the line and where we're going. And, it's funny, everybody's wondering why we're doing so well. And we weren't. We were flailing at the beginning. Nobody knew who we were. And I'm so dense. I got rid of, when I left Cliffside, I got rid of all my social media because I never used social media for anything but business, really. Right. So now I've got no social media. I've got no nothing, whatever. Nobody knows I'm back. And then they called me from the LA Business Journal, right? And they said, we'd like to put you on the cover. So I'm on the cover of the LA Business Journal. Everybody in town's like, you're back, right? Yeah. And the place filled up in like, I don't know, like 10 days, right?
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
yeah, so that was cool. That was cool.
Very cool. So we are out of time for the show, but
Hmm.
would you tell all of our listeners where to find you, what the
Hmm.
treatment center website is, if you know the phone number, any of those things that you can give the listeners while they're driving, maybe they can write it down. We'll put all of that in the show notes so they'll have access to it, but just a
Great.
quick overview would be great.
Just a quick overview. Just go to Carrara, and it's spelled Carrara, like the town in Italy, carraratreatment.com. And if they go there, they can find us. Okay.
Perfect.
And you can bring your dog to treatment.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
See, that's awesome. Now I
Uh-huh.
can refer to you because I've got 3 rescues and no kids, and everyone's like, what
Uh-huh.
would you do with your kid or your dogs if you had to go to treatment? I'm like, they're gone with me.
I'm not, I had a royal member of Saudi Arabia want to bring his cat. And I told him no. And he says, I'll double the price. And I said, no. And he's like, what's wrong with you? And I said, don't like cats. No cats. But other than
Oh,
cats, you can bring your dogs.
there we go.
Yeah.
So, give our listeners one piece of advice on how they can unpause their life. What would you give them? What would you tell them to do today?
Look, life is about momentum. Okay. It is. And you create your own momentum. And what I try to do every day is do the best half hour I can do, and then the next best half hour I can do. And I do that all day, and then I do it all week, and then I do it all month and all year. Because what happens is these little increments. So in a year, your life is completely different. And if you do this for 21 years, okay, no one's catching you. because nobody outworks you. And that's my thing. It's about, who are you? Who do you want to be? It's about thriving. It's about having a life that you can be proud of, that your children can be proud of, leaving this place better than you found it. Okay? That's life. That's what I would tell them.
That's awesome. Thank you for coming on the show. You've been listening to Unpause Your Life with my guest, Richard Taite, today.
Thanks for having me.
This conference will now be recorded.
So, this intervention story is bizarre. So, I'm moving and I'm in the middle of a move, and I just picked up these pizzas for the movers. And my wife's calling me, where the hell are the pizzas? And I'm like, I'll be right there. And as I'm driving on PCH, I'm going over a hill and my phone rings. And so I pick it up and it's my masseuse. And I said, hey, Patty, how are you? She goes, sweetie, I'm not doing too good. I need you to do me a favor. And I'm like, sure, baby, what do you need? And she says, well, I've got a friend of mine drinking herself to death, and I've never seen an alcoholic like this. I'm really scared, and I need you to go make a stop and bring her into treatment for me. And I said, no problem, sweetie. Where is she? And she says, Tivoli Cove. Well, it's an apartment complex in Malibu. And as I'm coming over that hill on PCH, Tivoli Cove is about 600 yards on my right. Now, I've got these pizzas, okay? And I'm like, ugh, right? I'm so angry because I do things that I don't want to do. You call, I go, right? So I'm there and I walk in and she's the worst I've ever seen. That wasn't a wet brain, but she was right on that border, man.
Yeah.
And I'm with her and I'm trying to get her in. And after 25 minutes, I just start crying. I mean, I'm hysterical. And I said, hey, lady, I'm sorry, but you're going to die. And I've run out of time. And I connected with her and she connected with me and she saw it was true. And I left. Cut to 5 years later, I'm getting a massage. And Patty says to me, you remember that girl you helped? And I sat up and I looked at her during my massage and I said, do never bring up that woman's name again, ever. It's too painful for me. She's dead. And she goes, she's not dead. And I said, Patty, she's dead and I'm never wrong. Don't bring it up again. So she's massaging me. She's like, okay, sweetheart, no problem. And about 10 minutes later, she says to me, so baby, do you ever get those, those children's books that I give you every Christmas? And she says, yeah. And she said, do you ever open the book and see inside the flap? And I said, no. Why would I do that? And she says, honey, when you get home, you should. I said, what is it, Patty? And she says, well, that dead woman writes your children, gives your children a book every Christmas. She's become a world-renowned children's book writer. And every year she writes on the inside of the flap to your children, letting them know who their father is.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that great?
That's cool. Did you
Yeah.
go back and read them and look at all the
Oh, yeah.
inscriptions?
Oh, yeah. What do you think this is for?
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Isn't that great? So out of the 30 interventions I've done, 2 of them have failed, and those people have never drank or used again. So that's good news.
So that means none of them have failed.
That's right. That's what that means.
That's awesome.
Well, I'm a golden.
Sometimes it's planting the seed and then waiting, and the little seed grows. And then
I've
we sit back
carried
and
people out of their house before. It's not.
yeah.
Sometimes it's the seed, sometimes it's the carry. But whatever But whatever it is, I'm a golden retriever. And, if I'm going to make the trip, I'm not leaving empty handed. That's just the way it is. And, I love interventionists. A good intervention. You know what I tell people about interventions for me? What I tell them is don't bring the people who love him the most. Bring the people who he loves the most, right? And because we've all been, when we're kids, this one likes us, but we don't like them, right? It's
Yeah.
like, who cares who loves us? What matters, the leverage is, who do you love? Who does the addict love, right? And then it's just about, what is this doing to them? No preaching. Just, what does this do to the person who you love? I want you to know what it's doing to me. And, it's just always, and then of course, never speak when the interventionist is speaking. Don't even move in your seat because you want all attention on the interventionist. And those are really, and then you come with the heart of a servant, right? The genuine heart of a servant. Now, when you do those 4 things, it's always worked out for me. So I can go to Ken and I can get my letters, but that's the height of disrespect. So
Very cool story. I'll make sure to put that in the podcast too.
I like that one. I thought you'd like that.
Thank you for listening to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Cali Estes and Master Coach Jenny Fontana. Head over to www.thelifecoachmethod.com to learn more about coaching yourself and how to become a master coach.